Hello everyone, this is Pras from the FPL Wire and welcome back to my team selection video for Gameweek 11. And I sold Haaland. I did my video last week and you guys knew that I was in a massive dilemma. I waited till Friday. Then Friday night I slept it off. I let Raul Jimenez rise. Saturday morning I felt a little bit braver. I felt a little bit like, I looked at my future paths and I was like, look, at some point this is going to happen. Might as well do it in a week where Salah for me was slightly better as a captain choice than Haaland. And obviously the outcome was very, very favorable. So never let's forget the luck element in this game, but I was happy with the outcome. So that's where we are. I'll start straight away with my team, which was basically a nice green arrow. Basically, any week where you end up with a game week rank less than 1 million is good. And that's what I got, basically. And my overall rank is now at 307. So 56 points overall. I should have started with that. Apart from Salah, the biggest hero was Solanke, and you guys also knew that I was dilly-dallying over him. And anyone who claims that Solanke is now a season keeper, they always believed in him. Let's not bullshit ourselves, right? If Solanke didn't have Ipswich, then a lot more people would have sold last week because they would have said, look, the data is not there. Even though it was a small sample size, they would have said the data is not there and the fixtures are not there. We're going to sell. People held because either they had other issues or they found other opportunities. Like in my case, I found an opportunity to sell Haaland, so Solanke really wasn't an option. Some other people looked at DCL out instead, which also made sense. So it worked out. But what does that mean? It means that Solanke still continues to be a good pick. So what we knew 5 weeks ago still holds true. And what we thought we knew with 3 weeks of data is probably less right. Even supported by the fact that tonight, which I'm recording on a Thursday night, he didn't play in Turkey for Spurs, which was something I was concerned about. So that means good minutes against Ipswich again, because again he'll not necessarily. I don't think he's been called to the England squad, and so he should get decent minutes. So happy with Solanke, happy that I got lucky and I had other things that I had to do which I prioritized, and I sympathize with those people who sold Solanke. But the two people I did get in, both returned. So Cunha got 6 points. Again, he's a bonus guy. He gets an assist, gets a bonus. Salah, I don't need to say much more. Very happy with his return. And for all the people saying, Salah was lucky, he got a goal, Haaland was unlucky. Haaland was unlucky, but doesn't mean Salah was lucky. Salah also missed a one-on-one chance. So I think team is fine. Defense continues to do nothing. I really miss Trent, man. For all the flack Trent is getting, I can't wait for, in 4 or 5 weeks, given my structure now, I think I'll have to wait for them to play Newcastle. And that's when I'll try to get him. But I can't wait to get him. And obviously a second Arsenal defender at some point. But I have a few options in my path now, which I want to talk to you guys about, which is why my favorite slide on the fixtures from Game Week 12. So I have not included today because I've shown this slide in the past. I've also added these columns for midweek. So if you look at Game Week 14, that's a midweek fixture. And Game Week 18 is basically the Boxing Day, which is a midweek as well. So those are the two. Apart from that, it's pretty much weekend football for a lot of the clubs. So if you think about clubs like Brighton, Newcastle, who are not in Europe, apart from 14 and 18, you can pretty much expect not a lot of rotation, but in 14 and 18, maybe. And I'm talking about the likes of, if you're talking about Lewis Hall from Newcastle, or if you're from Brighton, if you're talking about, going Kadioglu, or if you're even looking at a Dingra, or who was that guy? That Brighton winger, I forgot, Minte. So if you're looking at players like them, then that's a problem. But otherwise, hopefully, other players like Gordon Isak, hopefully Danny Welbeck, maybe João Pedro, but I'm not too sure about him. I'll talk about him. Somebody like a Lewis Dunk, I think these guys are Van Heck. These are fine. So, talking of fixtures, Game Week 12, anyone looking this week to sell Palmer, to do whatever, like you want to chase upside with Bruno, you want to chase upside with Son, I don't think you should be doing it with Palmer. Palmer has the best fixtures now in a team in which he's nailed on penalties, playing majority of minutes. And yes, there's fitness concerns this week, but tonight we saw him walking around in the Chelsea game, looked fine. It's a huge game, Arsenal at home. It's probably one where For the first time, Chelsea feel they have a chance, and if they can put Palmer out, they probably will. And so I don't have any news, but I know that he's been selected for England. He's been seen tonight. All the signs point to him being available. If tomorrow Maresca comes and tells us he's not available, I would still say think very long and hard about selling him, because he is the pick. He would be my number one pick. If you could have one player that I would say I would pick from now until Game Week 20, if I could have only one in FPL, it would be Palmer in this period, because the fixtures are just that amazing. The next is obviously Arsenal. So I've shown this to you guys before. I see a lot of people saying I'm going to sell Gabriel to fund, Bruno. I see people doing Raya down to somebody else. Now look, Raya is a keeper. You want to do something else, that's up to you. Gabriel should not be leaving your team. Getting an Arsenal attacker, maybe not in the next 2 weeks if you don't want to, but by game week 14, 15, definitely game week 16, you need them, man. Everton home, Crystal Palace away, Ipswich home. But even before that, like, I'm very happy to have Saka in place now. Other people, if they want to get Bruno and then hop onto Saka, I understand it. Other people structurally can't get to him. Great. Like, I'm happy. I'm happy to be on 30% Saka game week 12 onwards, because he's still an elite FPL pick. Our views change far too quickly. For the last 2 seasons, Saka has shown, with everything that he does, with his underlying, with how important he is, with penalties, with corners, with 90 minutes, he's the kind of pick you want over Christmas. And so with Odegaard coming back as well, I'm very, very excited to have 2 or 3 Arsenal going into. Well, I already have 2, so I will at least have 2, if not 3, by game week 12. So that's my priority. Bournemouth, I'm very sad to have sold Semenyo last week. I did it only for value reasons. Between Rodgers and Semenyo, I probably still prefer Semenyo. Better fixtures, more attacking team. Rodgers' minutes is on the decline, whereas Semenyo's is still steady and doing well. So some good home games, right? I mean, Brighton at home should be a good attacking game. Spurs at home should be a good attacking game. West Ham at home, Crystal Palace home, Everton home. Nice home games. So somebody who you can target. LR is talking about Evanilson. My only issue is the fact that, these 2 midweek games, the Spurs at home and Crystal Palace at home, like, I want those. I want my players to play those 2 fixtures. And if those are games where Unal plays, that's not nice. Or even if it is games where he plays, then maybe around it, Wolves away, Ipswich away, those are not games that I want him to miss out on. So I'm a little bit more skeptical about Evanilson, but Semenyo I like a lot. And then Wolves, I think until they play Leicester game week 17, arguably even Man United, although new manager. So until game week 17, which is the next 6 weeks, I think Cunha, Strand Larson, Ait Nouri, great picks. I think you just get them and then not worry about them, because again, they're not really in midweek, and Cunha and Strand Larson and Ait Nouri aren't players that even in game week 14 are necessarily going to be the ones that miss out. So not worried. After this week, I really like Brighton as well. Because they start this run with Bournemouth, and Bournemouth away is not the easiest, which is why if you can wait for a couple of weeks, I don't mind that as well. Because yes, today the temptation is to jump on Welbeck, but what if João Pedro is back? If he started, what if João Pedro is taking minutes off Welbeck, and that becomes a concern for both of them. So something to monitor with Brighton, but I do like their team, and I do like their, despite what you say, I think getting one Brighton defender may not be the worst thing as your backup, or somebody who you can play for home to Southampton, home to Crystal Palace. So something to think about for people. And then that's really it. And then it comes down to, look at Liverpool and Man City, they're together. And so, in fact, when you compare their fixtures are good and bad together. Like, the week they both play each other obviously are bad for both. The week in game week 17, one plays Spurs away, one plays Villa away. The week that they both have really good fixtures, game week 18, one plays Leicester and one plays Everton. So one strategy is you keep them both, but the other one is you basically say, I'll take the cheaper one and then I'll spread the funds. There's no right answer. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about Newcastle. I'm definitely thinking of Isak from next week as my DCL replacement, and I will talk about him if I don't do one this week. And so West Ham at home, Liverpool at home, Leicester at home, Aston Villa at home are all decent. I mean, Liverpool not so much. And then away games, Crystal Palace away, Brentford away. You've seen how many chances Brentford give up. Ipswich away, you see how many chances Ipswich give up. Not a bad shout. And then you can move him on to somebody like a Jackson if he's served his ban. Having all that money with Isak just basically means, again, you get 80, 90 minutes as long as he's fit. You get penalties. So I'm curious. Like, I want to see how Newcastle do away to Nottingham Forest this week, and then I'll go there. And then I keep saying lastly, but then lastly now, Spurs. Spurs basically next week play Man City. And I don't intend to play Solanke away to Man City, despite how Man City are looking. But then after that, it's good again, right? I can have Solanke. If I can bench him in Game Week 12, I can play him home to Fulham. Away to Bournemouth, not the best. Home to Chelsea is fine. Away to Southampton, very nice. So then you have Liverpool at home, Nottingham Forest away. Those two are not again great. So maybe the window to sell Solanke has shifted from Game Week 12 to Game Week 16. If your team allows it and if you don't need the funds. And that's also the window where I think that I want to get on Trent. Because if you look at Trent, I want to get on Trent by Game Week 15, 16. So maybe that's the thing that I do by getting out of Solanke in Game Week 16 and then go on Trent thereafter. Especially I want him for that Leicester at home in Game Week 18. That's about it on fixtures and some, I use these videos to talk about things that are in my mind. So these are the things that are in my mind from a fixtures point of view. Nottingham Forest, I'm not interested in. For all the things people are talking about, it's a great team, but they're playing Arsenal away, Man City away, Liverpool away between now and Game Week 20. They're playing Newcastle at home. I'm looking at Man United fixtures. They're playing Arsenal away and Man City away and Man United away in the next 3 of the next 5. Yes, they have Ipswich at home in the middle. So if you have a Chris Wood, if you have a Sells, great, you can play them. But for me, I don't want those. I don't want away to Arsenal, away to Man City. And the problem is, the away to Arsenal fixture is the same time as when Solanke also has away to Man City. So I'll have to play one of them if I go for Wood and Solanke. So that's where we are for long term. Coming to this week, I think as expected, the 3 teams to target this week clearly look like Man United, Spurs and Liverpool. Of course, Man City are also over 2 goals. There are not many weeks when Man City aren't over 2 goals. But, the dark blues are those. And again, in that Man United look, I watched them tonight and it doesn't look great. Like, they're the same. Like, Distelroy hasn't changed too much in the setup. They're still not finding Haaland. Bruno's still trying to do everything, and it looks like at the end of the game, how has he come back only only scored 1 assist? That's just, he's been doing that for a year and a half. So you can have a leap of faith that Amorim will change something, but against Leicester, I'm now less convinced that it's going to be such a convincing 3-0, 3-1 win. It could equally be a 1-1. Like, we are not that good right now. And so the time to get bullish on Man United, actually, let's go back and talk about Man United for a second. Because obviously this starts from 12, right? So it doesn't show the Leicester at home. So this is why it puts Man United slightly down. But then you have Ipswich away, which will be Amorim's first game, which is okay. But, Ipswich will suddenly give them hope. They'll attack. It's a new system that Man United will play. I expect Man United to win. I expect them to win Everton at home. But then suddenly you go into Arsenal away, Nottingham Forest and Man City away. And then those are not 3 easy games. So people who are breaking their teams to get a Bruno, you have to think maybe he's a sell after that. Maybe a move to a Bruno and then him to a Saka is something that works more than saying, oh, Bruno I'm going to keep forever because I feel like Amorim is going to fix it. It's going to take time. So anyway, that's enough on Man United. We got some comments. Don't talk about Man United too much, so we won't. Apart from that, this week, I mean, the West Ham Everton game is too close to call. Apparently, it's Lopetegui's ultimatum. Like, he has to do well. So what does that mean? Like, will he be a little bit more conservative? Will they go for the win? Don't know. But, they are expected to win that game, which you will see is reflected in my keeper choices. I think Brentford-Bournemouth is difficult to call. People are going for 1-1, 2-2 kind of game. Wolves, 1.8 expected goals against Southampton. So that should be decent. Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, very difficult to call. Chelsea, Arsenal, very difficult to call. So that's where we are. Clean sheet odds look very poor for everyone. So as usual, don't expect many clean sheets. The highest clean sheet odds are for the team that I trust the least for clean sheets. Actually, the 2 teams I trust the least for clean sheets, Spurs and Man United. So don't expect too many clean sheets. Even Liverpool are down to 32%, which is not huge. So defenders, if you don't like your defenders, don't worry about it. As long as they're attacking, it should be fine. This was interesting as player data. So the immediate thing you see it is, oh my God, Haaland. Like, I don't have Haaland, right? But most teams either have Haaland or Salah. And so if you have either one of them, I think they're fine as a captain. I think even Son is fine as a captain. The only worry with Son is like he got taken off on the 55th minute. Tonight he played 45. That must have been pre-planned. But how many minutes does he get? against Ipswich. If they're 2-0 up on the 50th minute, does he get taken off? So that would be my only worry. Like, you want your player to play as many minutes as possible to get that haul. Solanke got his points pretty much at the end. I mean, that last assist that Maddison scored was pretty much the last kick of the game. So you want your players to get points until long, and therefore I'm just a little bit turned off by Son, because I don't expect him to play more than 70-ish minutes. Now, against West Ham, he played 70 minutes, got a haul. No, he didn't get a haul, actually. He didn't get the assist. We remember that. But still, he was close to a haul. And then below that are some of the tempting options that I'm looking at. Like, look at Darwin at 0.54. Look at Gakpo at 0.46. I can get Gakpo this week for DCL. And the thinking with Gakpo is you have Gakpo this week. Hopefully he starts. And then you have Gakpo in the Southampton game, which is the money game, because both Darwin and Diaz go to South America. So that's been something that's playing on my mind. Like, after tonight, like, do I have to go Haaland? Haaland's pretty up here as well. He's on 0.51 expected goals. But I saw tonight, he barely touched the ball. 10 touches in the first half. Shots, I don't remember him having one shot. There was one time where he was through on goal where he was actually offside. But apart from that, there was nothing. People don't even look for him. And you can see it here. You know the right-hand column, which people tend to ignore? It's basically their share of goals. You see Haaland is the lowest. It's 20%. So him and Gakpo, of course, Gakpo for obvious reasons, because Salah eats up your big goal share, and Diaz takes it up as well. But Haaland is only 20%, which is very low, which basically shows that people, he will out of 5 goals Man United score, he scores 1. So it's only that he's expected to go 0.5, because this week Man United are expected to score 2.5 goals almost. And so half of that is basically, or 1/5 of that is 0.5. So I'm not too bullish on Haaland, but I'll see how I'll sleep on it. Like, because it's the whole week, you can see on the thumbnail, I've been thinking about DCL to Haaland as my moves. And apart from that, if I go down cheap strikers, Chris Wood is still high up, 0.42. It's not too bad. It's okay. 0.4 and above is okay. I mean, he's more likely to score than a Palmer or a Saka this week. Welbeck is actually not bad at all. Welbeck is higher than Cunha this week, which has surprised me. Should I just do Welbeck because I want a Brighton attacker after this week? That's something I'm thinking about. I'm not keen on Wissa as much. Evanilson, I mean, you can see here, he's playing Brentford, but he's lower than as a percentage or odds of scoring than Welbeck, who's playing Man City. So that tells you that right now the markets aren't there in terms of his goal share, maybe his minutes. His goal share is 24% at the moment compared to Welbeck, who's on 30%. So that matters. 30% is a big number. 30% is more than Salah's goal share. So that's what the markets are predicting on Welbeck. I like it. So that's something I'm thinking about. And then some of the other guys, Cunha is on 0.37, only 20% goal share, but then he has assists, right? Unlike Haaland, who I was complaining about 20% goal share, at least Cunha has assists, he has bonus. With Man United, Haaland can score a goal, but if it's Bruno who's assisted, that's gone. 3 bonus is gone. So it's why I've started to have a little bit of doubts. Look at Foden down there. Foden is just here, 0.32. I mean, markets, and Watkins, 0.3. Very low. Obviously, our friend DCL is above Watkins. So people who have lost faith, maybe look, Calvert-Lewin is almost the same odds as Foden and better than Watkins to score. So let's go to my team. But before that, I want to give a word of, calm for my friends that hold Haaland, right? I mean, there's a lot of things going on what's happening to his confidence, what's happening to his finishing, what's happening to Man City. This is a chart that was shared by the XG Philosophy. I don't know if you follow them on X. They basically share the XG stats for most games after. And what they're basically saying is, like karma catches up with you, they're saying XG also catches up with you. So what they're saying is after 5 game weeks, he had scored 10 goals from an XG of 5.57. And after 10 game weeks, he scored 11 goals from an XG of 10.5. So basically what he's saying is he was massively overperforming in the first 5, where he should have scored 6 goals, but he scored 10. And in the next 10, he should have scored another 5 goals, but he scored 1. So it basically is just statistics. Yes, there is something underlying with Man City, but he is still getting chances. So if you have him, don't panic. especially this week. Like last week, I felt there was a bigger delta. Like I thought away to Bournemouth was a tougher fixture than away to Brighton is, and home to Brighton for Salah was a better fixture than home to Aston Villa this week. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is the gap last week in captaincy difference between a Salah and a Haaland was higher. So it made sense to do it last week for a lot of teams. This week, it makes less sense. So you don't have to take hits to sell Haaland. You don't have, you should be comfortable. And the FOMO that you have of seeing Salah up there, and if you don't own, relax. If you have Haaland, I have Salah. We should both be scared of each other's picks, but that's life. That's FPL. It's not the end of the world. I think they're all reasonably good captains. I still think that for me, if Son plays 80 plus minutes, this is what I said on the pod, and I haven't changed my view, he's the number one captain. And then I think second is still for me Salah. Third for me is Haaland. And fourth is now Solanke. I mean, Solanke's now got a rest as well. So I think he is getting better. He's getting higher. I don't think I'll captain him over Salah. I was never going to. But I wouldn't even captain him over Haaland. No chance. So before I come to my team, just a quick plug on Sleeper. We have our Pick'em League, which we started last week. So if you still want to join, there's a QR code in this window on the right. So that's how you download the Sleeper app. You can join our Pick'em League if you like, and that's basically our Wire Pick'em League. It's free to join. You just have to predict who wins every single game week. And there's also a Champions League Pick'em game. Obviously, this week is done, but every single week there's Champions League. There's 3 winners that win £1,000, 1,000 USD. So the QR codes are right here if you want to get involved, and if you do, you'd be helping us out, so much appreciated. And so this is where I land in Gameweek 11. I've got Fabianski in goal. So the idea is I don't want to play doubles Man City defense, and I'm happy playing Rico Lewis as long as he's not rumored to be out. If he's out, he's out. Then I'll play Pinnock, who's home to Bournemouth. And then if I play Pinnock, I might get tempted to just play Edison, because I do want one Man City, like it's Man City. So this is where I am, where I'll either play Rico Lewis or Edison, and I'll play either Fabianski or Pinnock, depending on any news. And if there's no news, this is what I'll go with. 8 Nuri home to Southampton, happy with that. Gabriel away to Chelsea, okay with that. But look, it's Arsenal. Last season, people would have said Arsenal do really well away from home. They're a solid defense. So for me, nothing has changed. Then I've got Palmer, Saka. This should say Salah, of course, not Rodgers. And I've got Mbumo. And Salah, obviously, is my captain. And then in in attack, I've got Cunha. I've got Solanke, who's my vice captain, and I've got DCL at the moment, who's playing West Ham. On the bench, I've got Rodgers. So if anything happens to Palmer, worst case scenario, then Rodgers comes on, not the end of the world. So I'm not going to do anything about it unless he's explicitly ruled out for long. If he's only ruled out for a short period of time, I don't care. I will play Rodgers. Then I've got Pinnock also as cover. Let's say if Lewis doesn't show up or doesn't start. So I feel okay bench-wise. And my main dilemma is basically, do I do something with DCL this week? So there is this account, the Bobble or something like that, where if they tweet something where DCL isn't starting, then I'll get more tempted to just keep him. If they tweet something around him not starting or nothing, then I'm getting more tempted to do one of a few things. And I haven't made up my mind yet. Number one choice was Haaland, and let me explain why it was Haaland. It's not a Man United bias. It's a fixtures thing. You see here, I've got Solanke, which is Spurs. I've got Cunha, which is Wolves. I've got Rodgers, which is Aston Villa. And I was hoping to get Haaland. And so the idea would have been that you can see here, Game Week 11, I would bench Rodgers, who's Liverpool away. Game Week 12, I would bench Solanke, who's Man City away. Game Week 13, I would bench Rodgers, who's Chelsea away. Game Week 14, I would bench Haaland, who's Arsenal away. And Game Week 15, we see. Like, everybody has a good fixture. So this was the thinking, why Haaland fixes this problem where I don't have to play Solanke at Man City. I don't have to play Rodgers away to Liverpool and Chelsea. If I go for somebody else, that'll either give me benching headaches or won't solve the problems in the weeks that are needed to be solved. Like Chris Wood also has a bad fixture in 12. If I go for somebody who has great fixtures in all 4, then I have a benching headache in 14 and 15. So I'm basically trying to get into a scenario where hopefully I can avoid it. Like I said, the options at the moment are still Haaland. I may change my mind. Like tonight, we heard that Ahmad is injured, so that means that both Garnacho and Rashford should play on the wings. Like there was one threat that they could play, Ahmad could play, and Rashford could play up top. So that may not happen. The other option is I could go Gakpo if I feel really, really punty. I could go Welbeck. I could just go simple Raul Jimenez because Raul Jimenez also in the next two has good fixtures. He can cover for me Rogers and Solanke. I could also save. And if I save, basically the point is that if I'm able to save, then next week I have two free transfers. I can get Edison to Raya, and I can then make a move to get a Welbeck, which is more sensible. Or I leave myself the optionality. I can do Edison down to a Sanchez or a Verbruggen. You saw Brighton's and Chelsea's fixtures. Or even a Kepa. I don't know if Kepa's fit, by the way. But Bournemouth's fixtures weren't too bad either. And I can get Isak instead of that DCL slot. So then it feels like my midfield, Palmer, Saka, Salah, Bumo, Rogers, Cunha, Solanke, Isak, that's just good over the period where there's going to be midweek games. So many of those players are on penalties or talisman or strikers of good teams. So I'm tempted with that as well. So at the moment, I would say 33% roll, 33% I will go for a striker like Raul or Welbeck, 33% Haaland, 1% Gakpo. I still have Gakpo in my mind. So, like I said, Gakpo is just one of those things where I want him for Southampton and then move him on to a Brighton attacker. Anyway, those are my thoughts for my team. If you like the video, I'd really appreciate a like on the video, and also send me a comment on your questions. I try to answer all the questions, and this week we have a longer deadline, right? It's at 12. I think it's at 1:30 p.m. UK time, so we have a lot of time to figure stuff out. Send me your questions in the chat, in the comments, and I'll try to help you. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. We really appreciate it. We're trying to grow this to 40K by the end of the season. And if we can, that will be really, really amazing. So thank you for your support as always. This has been a longer one, but you have time. Take care.